Praise.
So let me start sharing my screen real quick. And let me open up. Can you see my screen?
Yes.
Okay. So we have this chart here where it kind of explains the different types of income for our mostly our W-2 income. That's going to be hourly down to monthly. So what we call W-2 incomes is any employee that is working and at the end of the year they get a W-2, right? There's different types of their income that they are receiving. So they can get paid hourly or they can get paid as a salary. Okay. So if you're getting paid as an hourly, it's going to be the hourly rate. So for example, on a pay stub, let me pull up a pay stub real quick. For example, this pay stub here, it is outdated, but this pay stub here, their hourly rate is 38. It's multiplied by the hours. So this here we have 40 hours. Per this pay stub here, it would be 72. Well, 72 including this 8 here for this Menta, it would be a full 80 hours.
Include that Menta or just the regular hours?
So this Menta, for this one, you would include it if they've been receiving it for 2 years. If not, we are only going to go with the regular hours.
So we need to verify with them if they're receiving it for 2 years already.
Yes. So if they get paid on a weekly basis, which would be full-time, would be 40 hours per week, you would multiply what you get between the hours times the 40 times the 52 times 52 weeks, and then divide that by 12. We need 30-day pay stubs. The pay stubs needs to cover the total of 30 days. So you would check on the pay period. So this pay period started March 4th and ended March 17th. If we looked back onto the calendar of March of 2023, March 4th through the 17th covers 2 weeks. So 1, 2. So this person gets paid biweekly. Because it's paid on a biweekly, we would be using this income calculation right here.
Yeah.
So instead of multiplying by 52, we would multiply the 72 hours times the pay rate times 26, divide that by 12.
Okay, that's the question. Okay.
Make sense?
Yes.
Okay. Again, for biweekly, you would collect 2 pay stubs. If they get paid weekly, then you are getting 4 pay stubs because it needs to cover a total of 30 days, 1 month. Okay. It always has to be the most recent 1 month pay stub.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
If they're paid on a semi-monthly, so let's say they get paid on the 15th and the 1st or the 31st, then it's going to be the hour rate times the hours times 24 weeks divided by 12. So depending on how they get paid, so that's why it's important that we look at the pay stub to check in there what they're paid.
Just the pay period. How about for?
So the pay period is to decide on how they get, so that you can use these different types of equations. And then down on this side, it tells you what documentation we need. When we're collecting the income for documentation to calculate the income for a W-2, we're collecting the most recent 1 month pay stubs plus 2 years W-2s. Okay.
That's always be the case.
Yes, always. If they're a W-2 employee, you always want to get their 2-year W-2 income.
And the most that should be the most recent W-2.
Yeah. So right now it'd be 2023 and 2022. Okay.
When is the fiscal year starts in US?
So the W-2, well, technically it's supposed to be from the beginning of January to December. But depending on how the HR, they cut the end of the year, sometimes the last 2 weeks of December gets transferred into the new year, depending when their last pay period is in December. So I do have this calculator here that is going to be easy for when you're inputting the income. You still have to review all the different items that I showed. So the pay period, make sure it is a current pay stub. So in this case, if we're reviewing this VAR's pay stub, we can't use this pay stub because it's last year's, right? We would have to request updated pay stubs. You want to check the hours and the rate. When we are calculating their income, we are going to first calculate their base income. That's only going to include the regular, if they get holiday pay, or if they get vacation pay, or if they get sick pay. That is all considered part of their hourly. This Menta might be considered part of their hourly just by looking at this because it's the same rate as a regular. But in order for us to be able to use this, they have to have been getting this for 2 years. Okay.
Yes.
On this Excel sheet here, if you scroll down, there is an option for you to input for salary if they get salary pay instead of hourly pay. Okay, so these first 2 are for your base incomes, depending on how they get paid. So hourly is this top section here. This salary is this bottom section here, which I'll show you a different pay stub shortly for this income. You keep scrolling down, you have our overtime and bonus. This one here, it looks like they have some overtime. So in order for us to be able to calculate the overtime for this borrower, again, he has to have been earning overtime for 2 years. If it's a bonus income, again, in order for us to use it, they have to have been earning it for 2 years.
Bonus and OT.
Yes. There's this commission. This commission is mostly when they are working as a salary. This is same thing as our overtime and bonus. If they get some type of commission, we can use it in their income calculation as long as they've been earning it for the last 2 years as well.
For the commission.
Okay.
Okay.
And then this other income here that we can include is, for example, there's on their pay stub here, it says other, or there's different different name earnings that we are not specifically using it as an overtime bonus or regular pay. If they've been getting it for the last 2 years, we can include it as an other income, but it depends what type of earning it is. Okay, let me see a file let me see, I'm thinking of a file that we can use, W2s, stubs, yes, this file, let's use this one. So because we are in October, we would have to request for updated pay stubs for this client, okay, because this pay stub, the most recent one, which is this pay period here, ends on the 16th. So we already have September month, the month of September's updated pay stubs. So looking at this pay period here, they get paid from the 3rd to the 16th. And then note that the pay date here, 8/23, this is just when they receive the paycheck. But the pay period itself, the hours are based off of this date here, between the 3rd and the 16th. So when you're inputting or calculating the months for this, always go off of the pay period and date. Does that make sense?
Good.
Okay. So if you scroll down here, okay, so first we're going to put the bar's name. So when we are calculating, we always need to have this Excel sheet. We're going to put the bar's name and then our employer name. So we can just copy and paste, leave it like that. Phone number, especially when it's income calculation for prior to submission, when we're scrubbing the file, we don't have to put a loan number. And then just today's date, that's always going to be there automatically. If it's not today's date, you can always just change it. So going down here, we're going to look at this bottom section here, where it has the earning types, the rate, the total hours. This is how much he is getting. The current pay is what he's getting paid for this current period between the 3rd and 16th of August. This YTD stands for year to date, and this is how much he's been earning from the entire year so far, up from the beginning of the year up until August 16th of 2024. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Okay. So right here, we're going to enter the hourly pay rate. So his base pay or regular hours is 25. And then we're going to calculate the number of hours because this is set for 52 weeks. We're going to make sure to calculate this as a weekly. So because he gets paid as a biweekly, and this is telling us that he's working 71.31 plus this PTO, which is paid time off, that total is slightly under the full 80 hours. If it was 72 and 8, it'd be the full 80 hours. It's slightly off, but just for training purposes for right now, I'm going to go with the full 80 hours, okay? Because he's getting paid for 80 hours on this pay period, we're going to check his previous pay stub, and we're going to make sure that the rate is the same. And then we're also going to calculate the hours here. So his base pay, this one says 75 plus 275. So
77, almost 78.
So let's say this was 76 plus 3, it'd be 79. This is slight 1 hour less than the full 80 hours because it seems like his hours seem to be varying. It's not the full 80 hours. So we actually have to average out his hours. If he was getting the full 80 hours on both pay stubs, then we can just go straight 40 hours. But because his hours seem to vary,
Average.
we need to average it out. So this plus 79.31, we're going to divide that by, so it's about bi-weekly, it's about 79.01 hours. This is his bi-weekly average. So we're going to divide that by 2 and get his weekly average. Do you see what I got that?
Yes.
So right here for his number of hours, we're going to put 39.51. We're going to average this up and it's automatically going to calculate the income here.
So we will always go with at least 2 decimal places.
Yes.
Okay, good. Okay, there you go.
Okay. We have to include all of them because we're going to see what income we're going to use. So this next one is asking us to enter the year-to-date earnings. So again, we're going to go back to the most recent pay stub and we're going to look at his year-to-date now. Okay. In order for us to, the number that we're going to put for the year-to-date is going to be his base pay or regular hours. So 28805.73 plus holiday hours plus his PTO hours, or also known as vacation hours. So this PTO payout, as you see, it's a bonus here at the bottom. We're also not including this one, that is his overtime. So we're only including his regular, holiday, PTO, or vacation, or if they have sick hours.
Makes sense.
This number here is what we're going to enter here. So 3171.98. And then this number of months, the way I calculate this is going back to our end pay period. So August pay period here is ending on the 16th. And we're going to divide that by the number of days in the month of August. So August has 31 days. 16 divided by 31 gives us 0.516. Because this is the month of August, that means he's been paid for 7 months. So our number of months, we're going to put 7.52. Again, I'm going to round it up here. And we get that monthly income. Do you see how I got this number?
Oh, I have confusion with
question?
we get the 16th divided by 31st.
Again, 16 is our pay period date, right? 16. And then we're going to divide it by the days and the month. So this pay stub is for August. So looking at August pay stub, it has 31 days. So we're going to divide the end date 16, divide that by the 31, and we get this decimal here.
Is it always be the case when calculating with the number of months or not?
I'm sorry, you got cut off. Is this always the case when you're calculating what?
When calculating or getting the number of months?
Yes. When we're calculating this number of months, we're always going to, if it's for a pay stub, we always need to find out how much. If this was on the 15th, it'd be 0.5. So 15 divided by, well, roughly 5. So it'd be 0.48, right? So then this number would be different. If this number here was, let's say, 25, then if you divide that by the 31, the decimal goes different. So instead of being 7.52, it'd be 7 months with 0.81. And then this income right here is going to change. Okay, so yes, you always need to make sure it's the most recent one, because like if we were going based off of this number, that was paid on the 2nd. So the 2nd, divide that by the 31, it's a lot different. If we were to put the 7.06, this income is going to change as well. And as you can see, it's changing by about 200, give or take. So that 200, give or take, is going to make a significant difference when inputting the income to calculate our debt to income ratios. Now, our next step is our W-2. We're going to put 2023 here and 2022 here. We're going to put our W-2. So let's open up our file and look up our W-2s. So our 2023 here, looking at our W-2, we're actually going to include this number. If our 1 is different from 5, always go with number 5. So 4735563. And then our W-2, oh, that makes no sense. Well, this was labeled incorrectly. This is a W-2 for 2023. So let's see. It was not. So for this file, we actually have 3 years or 4 years verification of employment. So I'm going to look at this number through this, but we would put for W-2, if we had the correct W-2, we would just put the W-2 here and put it here. So going back to the number of months, 2023, we're going to put 12 months because he worked for the entire year, right? For 2022, based on this verification of employment, he started working here at this Rio Hondo employer in June of 2022. So he didn't work the entire year at this company. So his base pay is significantly less than what his last year, 2023 was. So right here, we're going to have to calculate now, reverse calculate. So let's say, so he started in the 21st of June. So that means he worked the entire July, August, September, October, November, December. So he worked for at least 6 months. Oops, wrong. Okay, he worked for at least 6 months. So again, now we're going to go with this 21. And June has
30
days, I believe.
Yes.
It's 0.7. But because she started working on 21, that means she's been working, she got paid for 0.3. Does that make sense?
Going with
0.7. So
0.7.
0.7 would be if she was working, this was her end pay period, but because this is her start date, we're going to do 100 minus 0.7. Sorry, just kidding. We're going to do 1 minus 0.7, and it's going to give us our 0.3. So 1 month divided by, or subtracting by this date, 0.7, and then it gives us a 0.3. So that means she got paid for 0.3 days, pretty much. Weeks, okay?
Yes.
And so as you can see, this income and this income is roughly about the same. If we didn't have the start date and we put this 22,000 and then we put 12,000 here, or 12 months, you see how much this number decreased? So it's always important when we're scrubbing our files that we are always including our start dates. If they haven't been working at this employer for at least 2 years, we need to make sure we get the previous 2 years for the previous 2 years employment history. Income-wise, we are only going to include the income for the current employer, not for the entire 2 years income. So we're only going to include the income for their current employer, but we do need 2 years employment history. Make sense?
Just a supporting document.
Yes.
Okay.
Okay. So going back here, if his hours were consistent, he was working his 40 hours weekly. If we had 40 here, we would go with this income because his hours are steady. He's getting his 40 hours, but because his income is varying a little bit, the underwriter is going to want to average out his 2-year income. So if you go down here, the income per hour matches this, his year to date matches this, his year to date plus 1 year W-2, so then it gives us this amount, and his year to date plus 2 years W-2. So average out year to date and the 2 years W-2, we get this income. So if we were to use the 2-year average income, which is the lower income here, it would be what this Excel sheet is telling us, right? So it's telling us to use the lowest income to be conservative. We can use the 1-year average with the 1 year W-2, the year to date with 1 year W-2, which is this income here. Again, if his hours were consistent, we would just go with the higher one here because his hours are consistent. He's working his full 40 hours weekly. It's not changing. Then we would use this higher income.
But if not, use the lower income.
Yes. This overtime here, this one here, it seemed like he got overtime for the 2 years that he's been working there. However, we can't use his average out income because in 2022, he had a higher overtime than last year. So in order for us to be able to use overtime income, his overtime has to be consistent and it has to increase. So 2022, 2023, and 2024 now, it has to be going up. So from 2022 to 2023, it decreased and then it increased. So we can't use his average 2 years overtime income. Some underwriters might take the overtime averaged out between the 1 year and the year to date, but not all of them would because it's showing that it decreased and then it increased again. So they're going to question, well, why did last year you not get a lot of overtime?
So how are we going to resolve that? So just leave it as it is?
Well, because this is a verification employment, we can't change it. We can't change these numbers. So we can try and get an exception and have the underwriter use this overtime for these two, and we would just include it here. So we would just add the two. So year to date, it'd be 5/10/97. And so this is saying that his year to date is paid September 2024. So we're going to go with this date, September 13th. So again, we're going to include, well, actually, let me see what his pay stub says. So
Let me send you the record.
we're going to do 13 divided by 30 because this VOE is from September's date. So we're going to do 8.43. And then we're going to include last year's 195.92 or 12. So this is how much right here is his total overtime. Obviously, if these numbers were a lot higher, it'd be a lot bigger of an overtime.
I have a question with how to get the 8.43. So for the number of months, the 8 months covering from January until August. Good. I already know the second one.
And then the 0.43 is because of the pay period. So we're doing 13 divided by the days. So that means that it's 0.43. So that means that this number is going to cover all of January to August plus the 0.43 of September.
Okay. Pay stubs.
Any
Right.
questions so far?
Let me go back to the Excel sheet shows calculation. So
This one or this one?
that one.
This one.
So hourly and weekly, because we were calculating the hourly rate.
Yes.
The one that you have showed as an example, that's hourly.
Mhm.
Weekly rate. For weekly rate, shall it shows they are paid weekly or
So the pay stub is going to show the pay period being as a weekly. So it'll be, for
Yes.
example, this week would be from the 6th to the 12th.
and
or the
how about
6th
the
to the
weekly
11th.
rate? The weekly rate.
So
should
weekly
be
rate is going to be the same thing. So we're going to use this here, that the hourly rate times the 40 hours. That's going to be our weekly rate if we get paid weekly. If it's a biweekly, it's going to be the same hourly rate times the whatever hours. So 80 hours, 70 hours, 72 hours, whatever hours we calculate times 26. So this weekly rate, biweekly rate, semi-monthly pay, consider it as this first section, hourly rate times the number of hours.
Got it. All right. And please do share to me that calculating income spreadsheet.
Yes.
So moving forward, if there is any file assigned to us, so shall I calculate the income and put it on Talix? Or
If it's a pay stub, I would, yeah, you can calculate it and just let me know when you complete your input. Just let me know, hey, I calculated income. Please verify that it's correctly. Yeah, that would be great. Like I said, this is just so that you have some background
okay.
into income. So not going to do salary today, but just so you know, we'll do salary at a different time. But just so that you see a quick pay stub, that's salary. So the earning here states
Mhm.
salary. The rate amount is blank. This hours, it does vary. But so what we're going to go based off of is their current pay.
Divided by.
Okay. So when we come, possibly next week, I'll show you the salary and different pay stubs on salary.
Yep.
Okay.
Yes.
Any
So
questions?
and then for now, just share to me the tools that we need to use to calculate income because I will be doing an exercise on my end as well.
Of course. Yeah.
Thanks, friends.
Okay. You're welcome.
Bye for now.